positive, and that she had been in the office with him. The truth of the matter is, it wasn't a great amount of fear, but fear crept in. Like, fear was trying to creep in on me. Anytime I hear of somebody that I know that could possibly, and we don't even understand it, but it's been scary at times. And I know it's been scary at times, but just imagine, and that's just the COVID part, right? Now, you have this other issue, this big issue with George Floyd and numerous and Rashad, and there's been other things happen, and all this tension in the country, whether or not you realize it, that breeds fear, right? It breeds fear in the people that were bold enough to take to the streets and protest. It has to breed fear. Because what if I go out there and I get killed by a police officer or something else? It has to breed fear in the police officers. It has to breed fear into citizens that just live around there that don't want to have anything to do with what's going on. The thing is, the greatest seasons of God ever moving biblically were seasons where people were in great fear. They were in great fear of multiple attacks from different places at the same time. And I know this to be the truth. The world, and when I say the world, I mean anything other than Christianity. The world is trying to heal something that they don't have the power to heal. Because everything that's going on in the world, it's impossible to rebuild and restore without one key component. And that's Jesus. See, we say, let's have a conversation. The problem is we're not inviting the right people into the room. When we invite the right people into the room, healing can happen. So nothing's going to change. History's going to repeat itself until we invite the right people to the table for a conversation. And Jesus has to be that person. That's where I am, and I think that's where we are in our story today. Because just living life, you hear a lot of opinions, and the truth of the matter is, no matter the credibility, education, credentials, I'm sick of opinions. Like, I'm sick of hearing this side of the story, and then you turn another news station on and you get the flip side of the same story, and I'm like, whatever happened to actual biased news? Like, whatever happened to the days where we honored not having an opinion? Just the facts, man. You remember that? Wasn't that car 54? Just the facts. No, right. Okay. That shows my age, right? But, okay, dragnet, just the facts. That's what I want, just the facts. And what I found is it's really easy to get to the facts if you get the right people in the room. But it's hard to stay focused, talking and hearing from God with a million distractions going on. And the biggest distraction being what I need out of the equation, right? How do I come out better in all this? Because the truth of the matter is, better formulating the question, how many of you have been going through life and everything seems like on this easy coast of God's blessings and favor? Like it just seems like God's just blowing you away, doing great things in your life. Anybody have that? Yeah. Okay. All right, when that's happening, and then something comes against that or something bad happens, it completely can throw you off, right? Because here's one of the things that I'm not saying everybody does this, but the first thing somebody says is, where did I be wrong to cause this to stop? Well, how did I shut the faucet of grace and favor off in my life? Because all of a sudden things were going good and now I got hit blindsided. I don't know what to do. I must have done something wrong. If I didn't do anything wrong, then I've been around the wrong situation. And you start selfing and you start doubting what God spoke into your life in the beginning. Well, see, here's the thing. God has already got a plan, has already fixed the plan, has already restored and rebuilt everything that we're worried about right now in the future. And he's there waiting on us to catch up. We've got some catching up to do. Because God's already spoken it, his word didn't change. And he's been telling us, look, don't focus on what's out here. Focus on me. And opinions really come from a place of tremendous selfishness. Because if you feel the need to be right over the need to hear what is right, you're wrong.
Wow. Wow.
I don't think I could say that again, but that was good. But if we do, if we feel the need to be right in every conversation over the need to find out what is right, then we're always wrong. And that's where I land in social media a lot, because I have friends that make valid points. And the fact is, a valid point is just that. Because somebody could flip the conversation over and have an equal valid point on the other side. But the question is, what is truth? And that's what I've been wrestling with lately. Like, what is truth? I know there's only one place to find it. It's right here in the Word. So if we get to that, stand on that, and ignore the rest of the noise, we might be able to focus on Jesus and the promise that he's going to bring us through. And not just bring us through, but bring us through better. See, like a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't even ask permission to tell this story. You just waved for me to stop. But a couple of weeks ago, Ron and Crystal were in one of the most amazing seasons of blessings in their life. Right? And a simple phone call in the middle of all that created chaos. Ryan didn't do anything. Crystal didn't do anything. It's just the fact, the same situation that Rod dealt with and Meg dealt with. You be in the wrong place or around the wrong person at the wrong time, and all of a sudden you got to reevaluate everything. They were celebrating, man, we're about to have a baby. You go from that into quarantine. You know, in those moments, you have to really hold on to Jesus and his promises, because the enemy's going to try to get in here and twist all kind of stuff up. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah, chapter 6, because I want to talk about this today. This is relatable in many parts of our life, because many of us go from, well, we actually do go through like these seasons, like where I'll go through a season that I'm really hearing from God and God's really doing this, and then all of a sudden God changes things, and now I'm in a whole nother season. Like I went from a season of directing New Birth prior to all this, right, to rebuild the temple. Okay, they had been there rebuilding the temple. Nehemiah comes later to rebuild the walls of the city to protect the city. You see what I'm saying? They built God's house first, and then they're building a wall to protect the people that live in the city. This was not a wall to like keep people out of your country because they had gates. The thing was, the wall was there to protect the citizens of the city against war. Because war wasn't like it is now. Like you couldn't just shoot a missile into a town. War back then meant you had to go in and fight. So you got to a wall, you're like, what do I do? I mean, when you hit a wall at a city, there's not much you can do. That's kind of where we are historically. But when they started rebuilding the wall, Sanballat and Tobiah, which are very famous characters in the book of Nehemiah, come and they tried to discourage Nehemiah, and they tried to kind of stop the process of the work. Y'all remember that? It didn't work. So Nehemiah and them keep working, and what we're going to pick up today is where the second wave comes in. Now track with what I'm saying. Because sometimes you get hit with opposition and you're like, okay, I dealt with that. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, there's scars from it. But I dealt with it and I moved past it. But then you get hit again. You understand what I'm saying? Like a second wave of opposition. It's very discouraging because you're already tired from the first fight, right? It's like the second round in boxing or MMA fight. You really don't want to do it because you pretty much gave everything the first time. But then you get hit again, and that's where we find ourselves in Nehemiah chapter 6. Nehemiah chapter 6. As we catch a second wave of opposition. Here's the thing we're going to talk about today. It's focus on finishing strong. Is there a screen? Will you go back to that? There it is. Focus on a strong finish. Why would it be important to focus on a strong finish? Any season of life. Why is it important to finish strong? Isaiah chapter 58 is pretty clear. This is pretty amazing because already having a cynical attitude walking into this season. How do you think that's going to go for you? But the Bible says that the mountains will go flat for me. That birds will sing and things will be in ease as I travel into this season. I want that kind of stuff, right? For that to happen, that means I have to finish the season that I'm in very strong. How do I do that? I treat people right. I don't try to fix the world. The way I fix the world is in each relationship that I have. My sphere of influence, that's the world that I fix. And I only do it because I know that there are going to be people that live outside that world that don't see me the same. Right? I know that there are people outside my sphere of influence that will always see the old sky. That's cool. That's not my world. I'm not trying to live in it. I'm not trying to impress them that I can't do that. What I'm trying to do is live in this world and make the biggest difference so that when I finish this season and my sphere of influence gets bigger, that I have walked into that season strong. Right? Nehemiah understood this. Nehemiah chapter 6, we're going to start reading in verse 1. When the word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of the enemies that had rebuilt the wall, and not a gap was left in it. So check it out. There's a new guy in the equation, this Geshem guy. But what they're finding out is, in this short period of time, we're going to find out how long in just a few minutes. In a short period of time, the wall's built. Like Nehemiah hit it, and they worked at it, and they got it. The wall is built. And they can't believe this. There was not a gap left in it. Though up to that time, I had not set the doors and the gates. So the walls are built. All you got to do is set the doors. Anybody that works in any kind of carpentry knows that any part of the finishing part of the job is going to be an arduous job. Like setting these doors and these gates, it's not going to be the easiest thing. It's going to be the fastest thing. But the walls are already built. Let's go to the next one. Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. I want you to see this. At first, they were just like little kind of chihuahuas that were just kind of barking, right, as Nehemiah was building. But now, the walls are finished. They're coming in with a second wave, and now they're scheming to actually do harm to Nehemiah. Like, it's not just verbal now. Now there's a plot to actually physically harm him. So I sent messengers to them with this reply. I am carrying on with a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave and go down to you? 4 times they sent the same message, and each time I gave the same answer. Let me go back. 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Now listen, before we move on, I want us to look at this, because a period, and you read it in the scriptures, a period of 52 days they built the walls of Jerusalem. And if you've ever been to Jerusalem and just seen the Wailing Wall, these weren't small walls, but they had built the walls around the city 52 days. Now these guys keep sending this message back to Nehemiah. Now just come meet with us. He knows if he goes and meets with them, they're going to kill him. So he's like, nah, I'm good. Come meet with him. Nah, I'm good. 4 times. 4 times he gave him the same answer. And guess what he kept doing? He kept building. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week. I want to dive in deeper this week. There was something specific about Nehemiah and his people. You know that they were building the wall and helping Ezra and helping Zerubbabel And at the same time, they didn't have houses to live in. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, I know I'm going back to my hometown to build these walls. I've got to stay somewhere. Like, because they're not going to put me up in a motel. There's not a lot of the stuff that you get as construction workers nowadays. You don't get per diem and hotel rooms paid for, a certain amount of cash every day to get by. They're living there, rebuilding this, and they don't even have a place to live. I find that odd, except, remember we talked about the timeline. That there were already some people back building the city, building the temple. That would have been Ezra and Zerubbabel. So why would Nehemiah then come back and just refuse to build their own place to stay? This is really good. Let's go to Haggai. Haggai chapter 1. This is fascinating because in this timeline, this is right in between Ezra going back and Nehemiah coming. Haggai was there and he was watching the workers that were rebuilding the temple. And the word of the Lord came to him, and it said this: Then the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses, while this house, my house, remains a ruin? Do you hear that? So they had a different perspective. When they went back, first thing they did, they would go chop down a bunch of wood, build themselves nice houses, paneled houses. They build themselves nice houses and then start working on the temple. And the Lord's like, whoa, man, hold up. This is how you're going to do this? Like, you're going to think of yourself first and God second? Let me show you what I'm going to do with this. Now, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. Y'all ever felt like that? Planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. Man, I think this should be written to America. Really. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but you're not warm. Listen to this. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. That is not a good season. Y'all ever felt like that? Let's keep going. This is gonna go pretty fast. He said in Haggai, that's why Nehemiah didn't build houses. Because he'd already seen it historically happen. And a good thing for life is don't make the same mistake twice. So you have Haggai announce to the people, hey, why did you go back and build houses? Why did you think of yourself before you thought of God? Because this is not just thinking about yourself before your brother. This is thinking about yourself before God. I probably need to stop saying something like this, because really, if you think about it, this is really in people's business. You know what? How many of us, and I know I won't get a lot of feedback from this, but expect it. How many of us would be guilty of putting ourselves before God now? God says, you know what? That's okay. It wasn't okay then. That's okay. You need to be careful of your thoughts that you understand what's happening. Because if you have an Old Testament mentality, an Old Covenant mentality, then you're never going to be full. You're never going to have enough. And it's going to seem like everything that you put in your pocket falls out the bottom. But if you understand that Jesus paid the price for our wrongdoing so that he could inject the right heart into us, then when we put God behind us, we feel this stirring in our spirit that we need to change. And it's not God condemning us and saying your life is going to be jacked up forever. It's God extolling us and saying, I love you so much, but you can do so much better. And the thing that frustrates me in the church is I see it over and over. Jesus. And the way I picture him might not be the way you picture him. But every time I feel convicted by Christ, and by convicted, I'm not saying he's judging me. He's trying to encourage and extol me. I picture a bloody Jesus standing there going, dude, you can do so much better because of what I paid. Like you're not under. There is therefore no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. I love you. I want you to do better. Now, what do you want? Because I promise you, your actions are going to show. And that's why I think that there does need to be, in the church, in America, not a great revival, but a great repentance. A great turning away from our selfish ways and turning to a God that gave up everything for us. We want to call ourselves spiritual and live the opposite. Because I don't look like Christ if I'm the most important person in the universe. Because Christ was the most important person in the universe. And he became lower than the lowest for our sake. That's why I think we need a repentance. It's just a recognition of what Jesus did and how important and significant that was for our sake, so that we would wake up and know how loved we are. See, Nehemiah kind of understood that. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to just prefer my brothers over myself. I'm not just going to invite 150 people to eat at my table at my expense and not take an allotment from the government. I'm not going to just do all that stuff. What I am going to do is I'm going to sleep in a tent while I'm working down here. And I'm going to pay for stuff. And I'm going to pay for other people's stuff. But I am not going to build something for me before I build it for God. And it's not about building something in our life. It's about preference. It's about perspective. And it's about alignment and priorities. God first. In every area. Do you understand that? What is the first thing that hits your mind when you wake up in the morning? Be honest, it's not God. But it should be. It should be. It should be like our first breath. Thank you, Lord, that I'm awake this morning. That I'm saying this morning. And I get a chance to go out into the world and make some kind of difference today. Just keeping God first. That's all it's about. When they keep him first, God does something really cool. He allows the building of the walls, and he protects Nehemiah against these guys that are trying to kill him. Now I'm paraphrasing, and here's what happens. They finally get the gate set, And you'll never believe what happens next. Do you remember Persia, the king, Artaxerxes, that sent them back with provision? When this happened, and they rebuilt the walls, Nehemiah and them are still living like some Grateful Dead people following the concert around. I mean, they're literally living in tents, building a wall down there. And what happens is the Lord releases a mass exodus back to Jerusalem. And the whole chapter 7 is a listing of the returned exiles. So they start coming in. Nehemiah had to be incredible because Nehemiah standing up on top of the wall had to be looking out at the road one day and just sees a string of people as long as you can imagine coming back home. God's chosen people coming back home. That's amazing, right? It's amazing. He sees them coming back home. And there's this mass return of the exiles. And as Jerusalem begins to fill up with people, here's what they sensed. The season of rebuilding is ending. Okay? And Nehemiah made a stand to finish that season strong. He said, no, I'm not coming down from the work. This work needs to happen. I'm not coming down from the wall. Matter of fact, there's some guys that are working with a sword in one hand and a shovel or a hammer in the other. This is how we're doing this, and we're going to be diligent. And we sleep in tents or on the ground, and then we get back to work the next day. So this is how we're ending this season. The season of rebuilding, we're finishing this season strong. And the reason we're finishing this season strong is because you see that long line of people coming back right now. We rebuilt strong, God restores strong. And he begins to bring this big parade of people back to Jerusalem to begin the restoration of this nation that he chose. He chose. God chose. You say, well, that's not fair. Why would God choose them and not choose us? He did. Chose us all. But there was a specific group of people that he chose for Mary to be born in, right? A specific people to come out of Egypt that came from the lineage of Adam, that came from the lineage of Abraham, those people, so that Mary could be born, so that he could be injected into the world again, and be born through a people that he had protected, so that he could redeem the rest of people on the planet as one. So they begin to come back. They're finishing the rebuilding process really strong. And now comes the restoration. They've entered into the season of restoration strong. And then let's go to Nehemiah 8. This is so cool. This is in the restoration process. This is when the people finally act. So the people went out and brought back. What's that next word? In the book of Haggai, they were going to the woods and cutting down large cedars for their homes. But it says right here that the people went out and brought back branches and built themselves temporary shelters on their own roofs in their courtyards, in the courts of the house of God, and in the square by the water gate, and one by the gate of Ephraim. After it was all finished, after the rebuilding was over, the opposition was over, the people were coming back. Nehemiah's basically like, yeah, now go out, let's go build us some houses. And they go out and start gathering branches. Because they understood something. And I think we need to understand it too. I've read the book, Purpose Driven Life. Greatest selling book right beneath the Bible. Written by a pastor out in California. Does pretty well for himself to have the most best-selling book next to the Bible. But the first few words of this book I'll never forget. Is if we're going to walk as Christians and we're going to understand seasons and finishing seasons strong, living a life that we make a difference in our world, and if enough of us do that, we make a difference in the world. Starts with these words right here. It's not about you. And none of us would really say it, but most of us argue with that. You know what I'm saying? Of course it's about me. Jesus died for me, right? That's a theological question in and of itself. But it's not about him. It's about him. It's about y'all. And y'all should feel the same way. It's about Jesus first, and then it's about the world, our brothers and sisters around us. That's what it's about. The question is, are we going to live that way? Because I know all of us, one way or another, are in a season right now. And some of us, when that season's over, how we have finished that season is how we're going to go into the next. Now look, why am I saying this? Because they're exiting a season. And they're entering into another season. So what I'll ask you to do as we close today is this. If you can stand, stand. If you can't. But I want everybody to turn around and stretch their hands back there towards Brian and Crystal. Father, today, we, as your body, proclaim blessings and favor and honor and provision over the life of Brian and Crystal. And as they exit this season of just marriage and enter into the season of parenthood, that Lord, you give them wisdom, that you give them strength, that you give them insight, and you fill them with your spirit, God, to overflow. So that as they enter the season of parenthood, they would raise up Ella in the ways of the Lord, that when she is older, she would not depart. So we just speak blessings over them, and we pray that in every area of their life, God, you are first. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. And grab yourself by the chest and proclaim this over you. Father, I'm going to put you first. And the places I fall short, I just pray you show me how to finish strong, and how to run this race called life. Honor you in Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. God bless you.